Quarterback is the most important position in college football, perhaps all of American sports. And it's for that reason that you can look at a team's quarterback or their upcoming quarterback and get an idea of what their upside is and maybe even how good they're going to be. And that's why I'm doing a breakdown and a countdown of the top quarterbacks Clemson will face in 2025. Last year, they dodged really some of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. They didn't play Cam Ward of Miami. They didn't play Kyle McCord of Syracuse. And they didn't play Kevin Jennings until the ACC championship. They also didn't play Haynes King. So they really dodged some of the best the ACC had to offer. On top of that, the three best quarterbacks they played were Carson Beck of Georgia, Tyler Shue of Louisville, and LaNorris Sellers of South Carolina. And those were their three regular season losses. And so looking at quarterback and who they're going to play gives you a really good look at the schedule in general. And it's not like Clemson doesn't have a great quarterback of their own. So, Cade Klubnik could be the best quarterback in all of college football, one of the top 2 or 3 returning quarterbacks for sure. And so this isn't a schedule ranking by any means. This is really a quarterback showdown rankings, with the best one being possibly the 2 best quarterbacks entering the season. So with all that said, let's dive right in and look at some of the best quarterbacks Clemson will face in 2025. And Thomas Castellanos goes from UCF to Boston College, now to Florida State, where he reunites with his former coach at UCF when he didn't start there, but Gus Malzahn. Castellanos is a 5'9" speedster. He's maybe even a run-first quarterback. He's as much of a running quarterback as you can imagine. And that's where Gus Malzahn thrives. He had Nick Marshall as a running quarterback in 2013 when they went to that national championship game, losing to Florida State barely in 2013. So it's a great fit there. I don't know what the long-term upside is for that Florida State offense, over the next, say, 5 years, if this is the offense they run, but it should immediately raise the floor a lot. I would be stunned if they didn't make a bowl game again. And so I think Castellanos, who last year was just okay, you see his stats there, 1,366 passing yards, a good TD to interception ratio, good, but he got benched towards the end of the year. But the year before, he was really, really good, throwing for 2,248 passing yards and with over 1,100 rushing yards and 13 rushing TDs that year. That was before they brought in Bill O'Brien, NFL coach, more of that pro style. But when you let Castellanos kind of play his game and you tailor the offense to him, I think he's got a ton of upside. And it's ironic that he's going to Florida State because that's who he had some of his best games against. Last year, he ran for 73 yards and a touchdown in a Boston College win over Florida State, a game that really sort of sent. You could argue it was Georgia Tech, but I think the Georgia Tech Boston College back-to-back losses to start the Florida State season sank their year and really hurt their program. So it was really before Florida State was kind of just a bad team. They certainly weren't good, but it was a really great performance by Castellanos. But the year before, 2023, that was a really good Florida State team that won the ACC. Castellanos threw for 305 yards, ran for 95 against that good Florida State team. So I really like his upside. Could it not work out? Absolutely, totally possible. This is a bit of a wild card, but I think the upside is really there for that Florida State team that has Castellanos at the helm. They're certainly going to be fun to watch. Castellanos is one of the most fun to watch quarterbacks in the ACC and really in general. He's a fun one to watch. Miller Moss reminds me a little bit of Tyler Shue, that he was a high-end prospect, high 4-star. He was at Southern Cal, out west, and he waited his time for Caleb Williams, who won the Heisman and then played another year. Finally, he comes in and really his first showcase was in the 2023 Holiday Bowl, where he had 6 touchdowns, 372 yards, and it felt like, hey, this is a passing of the torch. Caleb Williams is off to the Chicago Bears or where he would get drafted, but we've got something to Miller Moss. It seemed like it was pretty good. And that was against Louisville. But then this season, he got to start the whole year, and he was good, but not excellent. He had 255 passing yards, 18 TDs to 19 interceptions, not an outstanding ratio. So it was a pretty big drop-off from Williams. He eventually got replaced after a 3-pick game against Washington. He was replaced with Jaden Maeva, He really wasn't any better statistically, but he lost the starting job, so he transfers now to Louisville, where it all started in that Holiday Bowl. So I think he could be really good. I think he could tap in that upside that he had as a prospect, just like Tyler Shue did under Jeff Brom. I think Brom just, Lincoln Riley obviously turns guys into Heisman winners, but maybe Brom's even better at turning guys into just quality quarterbacks. And I think that's what Miller Moss can be. So I kind of like his floor and the ceiling. I would be surprised if he's not an above average quarterback in the ACC. Now, after those two, we start getting into guys who I have really, really high opinions of. And the first is Haynes King. He was hurt last year. So going all the way back, he was a starter. He played at Texas A&M for 3 years. And he's the last class to get the COVID waiver plus the redshirt year, which is a crazy rule. But if you redshirt and also it's during 2020, then you could double dip and basically get a free year just for redshirting or just for being enrolled in school that year, which is crazy, but it still applies. I think this will be the last year it applies. And Haynes King is in that. So he's going to be a sixth-year player with 3 years at A&M and now his third year at Georgia Tech. So he's definitely got tons of experience. He's got that veteran moxie that he's going to bring. And his first year at Georgia Tech, so the year before last, he threw for 27 touchdowns. He ran the ball 373 yards on the ground. He kind of fixed that offense, but he also had 16 interceptions. So he was carrying the offense, but also making mistakes. This last year he had, I don't know if it was a shoulder or some just quote upper body injury, but it definitely limited him passing. So they leaned on him as a runner a lot. He ran the ball 20 times against Miami, got 93 yards. They beat Miami. He ran it 24 times for 110 yards against Georgia. They really couldn't stop him. But if you remember, that was an 8 overtime game. Kirby Smart would call a timeout basically every overtime once they got into the 2-point conversion contest. They didn't win that game, but he was really impressive. He's got a lot of toughness, and now if he's healthy, I could see this being kind of the 6th year. Think Clemson basketball, Chase Hunter. You get those extra years and you really make the most of them. I think he's going to be really, really good. I think he's going to be really tough for Clemson having to go to Atlanta. That's a game. I don't know how good their defense will be, but their offense is going to give Clemson a real challenge. I think Haynes King is the biggest part of that. And then an interesting one is Darien Mensah. So he was at Tulane last year where he was crazy efficient. He was a redshirt freshman when he did this. He threw for 65.9% completion percentage with 9.5 yards per attempt, which led the conference. That's a really, really high number. So he was crazy efficient. But that's also because they leaned so heavily on their run game. So they ran the ball a lot. Their star running back, Mekhi Hughes, had 1,401 rushing yards and was 8th nationally in rushing attempts. So they leaned on the run really heavily, and that allowed him that brings the defense in to stop the run, which allows him to be more efficient as a passer. That definitely helped. And just playing an AAC schedule, Tulane has more talent than a lot of those opponents, and those defenses aren't quite as good or quite as fast as what he'll see in the ACC. Not to say the ACC is excellent, but I think it is fair to say it's a different level than the American. He played 2 Power 4 conference opponents during the regular season, K-State, who he totally torched, 342 yards, and Oklahoma, who shut him down. So it's not it's not super easy to project he will do at Duke. Duke also, they're going to play an ACC schedule. They're not going to have the talent advantage that he had against opponents when he was at Tulane. They lost their top 2 wide receivers in Jordan Moore and Eli Pancall. They brought in a 1,000-yard receiver from Harvard, but who knows how that's going to translate. He was just set up for success at Tulane, and so we'll see how that carries over. Now, the thing was, that was also his first year starting. He was a redshirt freshman. He's only a redshirt sophomore. So you would expect him to just improve with time and experience. So it's quite possible and would not be shocking if he was the best quarterback in the conference. Duke certainly paid him to be, right? They, kind of out of nowhere, started really, really investing in football in terms of NIL. Clemson fans remember they swiped Bryce Davis, a really high-end defensive end recruit from Clemson, which was thought to be an NIL-related win for them. And now they swiped Tulane star quarterback, and again, a very NIL-related situation. So they're spending the money. They should be pretty talented. They should be one of the better teams in the top half of the ACC, but I still think it's a much harder setup for him than what he had at Tulane. So I think it's going to be really good, but I have a few guys a little bit higher than him. Number 3 is an out-of-conference guy, and it's LaNorris Sellers. I don't think Clemson fans will debate this one too much after what he did against Clemson last year. I originally actually had him second, but then when I looked into the numbers a little bit more, felt like that didn't hold up. So I went with Kevin Jennings 2, LaNorris Sellers 3. So Sellers only had 299 pass attempts. He missed the game against Akron, but generally the team, even when he played, just was a pretty run-heavy offense. Now, a lot of that was because he ran the ball a lot. He had 166 carries on the year, and he was a great runner. As a passer, he's still just a little bit raw, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But in the big games, I have to admit, he was great in several really big games. He threw for 244 and ran for 106 in a win over A&M. He threw for 353 and ran for 45 against Missouri. And of course, even though Clemson held him to 164 passing, he ran for 166 on the ground, including the game-winning third and long rushing touchdown against Clemson. So he's kind of a big game player, and I got to give him credit there. He's another one who you would expect, now that he's got the year of experience, he should grow as a passer. So I think he could be really good. So not just top 3 on Clemson's list of opposing quarterbacks, but maybe top 10 best quarterback in the country, maybe top 5 best quarterback in the country. He's got a lot of upside, and I think his floor, just because he's such a good runner, is also pretty good. Clemson will go to Columbia. That's going to be a tough one. And I think you're starting to see Clemson's facing a lot of really good quarterbacks, and one of them will be another guy they also faced last year, and that's Kevin Jennings. Kevin Jennings' stat line was very good last year. He had 3,245 passing yards, a 65% completion percentage. Obviously, those are both awesome. His 23-11 TD to interception ratio was decent, but not great. But it's also worth remembering, he wasn't even the starter to begin the year. He didn't start the first 3 games, eventually became the starter, and they won 9 straight before losing to Clemson in the ACC championship and then losing to Penn State in the playoff. But he still threw for 304 against Clemson. He's not a runner in the same way that Sellers is, because he's not as thick and powerful. He more so uses his legs to avoid sacks and extend plays and beat you, in the air, right? And that's kind of what you want. And I think they're working on him being an even more complete passer in that regard. So I think he's still got a lot of upside. He was still young last year, and he was already really, really good. Now, the one thing working against him is a little bit like Darien Mensah for Duke, in that his schedule should be harder. Last year, they didn't play Clemson in the regular season. They got Florida State, who was really bad. They dodged Miami. This year, they'll get Clemson, Miami, and Louisville all in the regular season, all in the same year. So the schedule does get harder for SMU. But last year, they also did something pretty unlikely and pretty amazing, really, to go from a Group of 5 conference to a Power 4 conference and run the table 8-0 in the regular season is incredible. Kudos to them, and we'll see what they can do this next year. Now, before we get to the last one, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It really helps it grow a lot. So thank you to the over 1,000 people who've already subscribed. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying this Clemson content. And don't forget to leave your comments below. So as you can see so far, Clemson's got a much tougher schedule this year than last year. And hey, they don't have Carson Beck, but they might wind up facing Carson Beck in the ACC championship game. Of course, that's not who I have on the list because I'm doing regular season here. So let's take a look at the last guy. Another non-conference quarterback is Garrett Nussmeier. He threw for over 4,000 yards last year. This is a guy that LSU leans on heavily, and he delivers big time. Only one quarterback threw the ball more than Nussmeier last year, and that was Kyle McCord at Syracuse, who the Orange leaned on in an almost ridiculous fashion. Not that much different at LSU. At LSU, where they have just a long line of really elite quarterbacks. So now he's back again, redshirt senior. He's got the experience, he's got the numbers, and he was still efficient, 64.2% completion percentage. He's top 3 in Heisman odds, along with Manning from Texas and Klubnik from Clemson. Those 3 are going to battle out. This first game is going to probably decide who's the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. Now, LSU's passing attack will be awesome, but they don't have the insane amount of talent at wide receiver that they did back in 2019 when they beat Clemson in the national championship with Joe Burrow, another Heisman winner at quarterback. But they do have some transfers that came in, which is interesting. Darien Brown from Kentucky, who Clemson played in that Gator Bowl 2 years ago, where he had 100 yards against Clemson. He's a speed guy. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, who was hurt last year, but was a freshman All-American the year before that. I don't think they have the wide receivers Clemson has, and I'm not sure they have the defense Clemson has, but they will offer probably the best quarterback matchup in all of college football next year on August 30th when LSU comes to Clemson. Nussmeier, Klubnik. It's a really interesting, possibly high-flying, high-scoring season opener. I'll give you 2 interesting stats to end this video right about this on this topic here. LSU has amazingly lost 5 straight season openers. That includes a loss to UCLA. Meanwhile, Clemson is just 3-6 in that same time period against SEC opponents. That includes wins over Kentucky and South Carolina. So not really the best of the SEC. Something's got to give. I think it's going to change the narrative for these programs. One of them is going to be riding high back to elite status. The other is going to be licking their wounds, still struggling with the same things they've been struggling with the past half decade. Huge game, amazing quarterback matchup in a schedule that's full of really great quarterbacks for Clemson. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like this video. And as always, go Tigers.